How are you? Michael Williams here. It is fantastic to be with you again today. We're going to talk about a three-part formula that you can use to liberate your speech so that you're free to do the things you've always wanted to do, so that you're free to do the things that you've dreamed of doing. So if you've been going through life, and I've talked to lots and lots of people who have been going through life, and they've actually stopped dreaming. They've stopped thinking of the things that they'd really like to do. They stopped having dreams and setting those big goals because of their speech. Now, I just happen to be talking to an audience of people who struggle with their speech. But if you're watching this video, and if you've stopped dreaming and it's not because of your speech, then this video will be applicable to you as well, because we all have things that we'd like to do but don't do for certain reasons. And I think that you're going to hear in this video some things that apply to you as well. So my name is Michael Williams, and once again, thank you so much for joining me in this live broadcast. So we're going to look at a three-part formula that you can use now. You can start using this today to liberate your speech. What does it mean to liberate something? When something is liberated, it's freed, it's let go, right? And so many people, probably some of you watching this, have felt like you've been imprisoned by your own speech. You felt like you've been trapped inside your own mind, inside your own body, where there's things that you want to do, people that you want to talk to, and things you want to say, but you just can't say them, or you can't say them when you want to say them. There's been times, and I've laughed at this, where I wanted to say thank you and just wouldn't come out, and then the person's walking down the street or something, I say, oh, okay, thank you, right, and it comes out like 5 minutes later. Has that ever happened to you? Or you just want to say something that doesn't come out when you want it to. So when you feel liberated, you can say the things that you want to say when you want to say them. And once again, we're not talking about a perfect speech where this happens every time, 100% of the time. No one's speech is perfect. But when you feel free, I remember a time many years ago where I literally felt that freedom. And I've talked about this in some of my videos, where I felt the freedom. It felt like a big, wet, heavy black blanket, like a weight had been lifted off. And I remember it very, very clearly, where I felt free. And I said, man, you know what? I can do whatever I want to do. And my speech wasn't then as good as it is now, but it was pretty good. But I felt that freedom where I said, man, nothing can stop me now. In fact, my speech is an asset. And I want you to be able to get to that point too. And that's why I want to share this three-part formula. It's going to help you do it. So let's get right to it, okay? Three-part formula. A three-part formula, okay, to liberate your speech. I'm not going to write the whole thing, but to liberate your speech, okay? It's a three-part formula, and they all begin with the letter D, so this should be very helpful for you. So the first one is to decide why. To decide why what? To decide why you want to transform your speech. Now, this may sound like a very silly question. It may not sound like a question that you need to spend a lot of time on. But the fact of the matter is, now listen, the fact of the matter is, if you don't have clear enough reasons why you're doing this, and I've seen this happen, you'll run out of steam, you'll run out of gas when you're on this journey to smooth, fluent, clear, calm, confident speech. You won't have the motives or the drive to keep going when it gets tough, and it will get tough. This will be, for most of you, one of the most challenging things you ever do in your life. Why? Because you are literally changing the way you've been thinking about speaking and about yourself and your ability to speak and about how you say these words and letters. You're literally changing that way of thinking that you've had for a decade or more. You're changing your way of speaking, okay? So that's like trying to change the way you walk or the way you do something automatically. So this will be one of the most challenging, if not the most challenging thing that you ever do in your life, but it'll also be one of the most rewarding things that you ever do, okay? So it's worth the challenge. So in order for you to be able to push through, I talked about this in one of my videos a couple of weeks ago, you're going to go through various dips as you go through this process. You might have some highs and you're going to have some lows where you don't perform as well as you would like, even though you've been working hard, and that's normal. So you need to expect that. So when you go through those dips, that's where a lot of people quit. That's where a lot of people give up and they say, this isn't working. You know, man, for the first few weeks, I was really doing well. I was excited. My confidence was up. Then I started to get stuck again. And then it seemed like I started to regress. And so maybe this isn't working. Maybe I'm stuck this way forever, right? So then they get discouraged. They get distracted. They jump from this program to that program. They try to find the fastest way, the cheapest way, the easiest way, which is human nature, right? And they don't stick with it. And so what happens is they never fully realize and actualize themselves and their speech and their potential. Okay, so it's important that you understand why, that you have very clear reasons why you're doing this. And we're going to talk about 2 categories of why, because when you know why, then you have the drive, you have the motives, that is motives. In fact, if we take a look at this word motivation, right? Motivation. Well, what's the word that we see in motivation? Motive, right? So this means that you have a clear why. So the more motives you have, the more reasons why you want to do something, and the more reasons why you have to do something, the more drive you have, the more drive you have. So let's talk about a couple of categories of motives. Okay, reasons why. So there's 2 categories here. 2 categories. And the first category that we're going to look at has to do with you, and the second one has to do with others. Let's make it very simple. So you want to ask yourself, and this is the first part of this formula, you want to ask yourself, why do I want to transform my speech? Why do I want to be able to speak smooth? And again, this might seem obvious why I want to do it, because I don't like not being able to say what I want. I don't like speaking too fast or people can't understand me. I don't like stuttering or stammering or getting stuck. I don't like experiencing this fear of speaking up in public or when my boss is here or whatever it might be. I don't like that. So you want to ask yourself why, and you might say, okay, well, here's one reason why. But I want you to go deeper. I want you to ask yourself, why do I really want to transform myself? And this is where you want to begin to dream again. You want to think about, what is it? How is this going to substantially change my life? How is this going to improve, positively impact my life if I'm able to say what I want to say, if my speech has been transformed? How is it going to positively impact my life? So then you look at your entire life. You look at your career. You look at your relationships. You look at your health. You look at your mental health as well, your physical health, your mental health. You look at your social life. You look at your community and your spiritual life. And you ask yourself, how will these areas be substantially and positively impacted and improved by transforming my speech? You ask, how, right? How will my speech be improved? And when you ask this question and you start thinking about, wow, well, if I feel free and liberated to say what I want to say when I want to say it, then I'm not going to be as stressed and anxious. I'm going to feel more relaxed. So that's going to help you physically, and it's going to help you mentally. I'm going to have higher self-esteem. I'm going to feel better about myself and my potential in life and my possibilities. I am going to be more willing to get out and to meet people socially, right? I'm going to have a better social life. I'm going to have better relationships because now I can express myself more freely and fully and openly. I'm going to have a better career because I'll be able to take on assignments and responsibilities and jobs and perhaps start my own business and perhaps take another career path that I avoided because of my speech. So ask yourself how your life will be positively impacted and look at the different areas of your life. The spiritual, the social, the interpersonal, right? The relationships, the intrapersonal, how you feel about yourself, how you relate to yourself. Okay, your career, your finances, how will your finances be impacted by transforming your speech? So you ask yourself that. Now here's the second one, and this is it's a little sneaky one in a way because you might not realize how much of an impact this will have on you. Now listen to this, how will transforming my speech positively impact the lives of others? How will it impact the lives of others? How will I be able to now transform or help transform the lives of others when I'm able to speak well, when I feel free to say the things that I want to say and to be the person that I want to be? How will it impact others? And so what we want to look at is this idea of service. How can you be of greater service when you've transformed your speech? Now, this was the one that drove me the most. Obviously, both, right? Both. Sure, I'm going to feel better. I'm going to be able to speak up in meetings. I'm going to be able to do workshops and do things that I really want to do. It's just going to make my life a lot better if I can speak well. But also, it's going to allow me to be able to help other people, right? To help other people. And now watch this, when you get outside of yourself, something very magical happens. When you get outside of your own mind and stop thinking about your own problems and my speech and what I'm not, and what is this person going to think of me? What if I get stuck? When you get outside your own mind and you start thinking about how you can help others, and you start thinking about how you can equip yourself, how can I better equip myself to be of greater service to other people? How can I improve my ability to communicate? How can I improve my ability to lead, to influence? How can I improve my vocabulary? How can I improve my marketing skills? How can I improve all of these different skills and abilities so that I can better what? Serve other people. And once you start thinking about that, then you feel more positive. Literally, your esteem goes up. Your confidence goes up because you're in forward motion, you're improving yourself, and you're thinking about how you can better serve others. So you start getting out of your own head and you start getting into the lives and the minds of other people and what they want and what they need and how you can serve them. And when that happens, something very magical happens. What is it? Well, all of a sudden, you stop thinking about your own speech. And when you stop thinking about and worrying about and being preoccupied with your speech, then all of a sudden the dam opens up and your speech begins to flow, right? And I found this in my own life, that when I started to focus on how I could help others, right? And long before I started doing speech work, but in all the other work that I did, when I started focusing on that, I forgot about my own speech and my speech began to flow because I wasn't preoccupied in anticipating this word and that word. I wasn't worried that I was going to get stuck because I was just thinking about, man, how can I continue to improve and develop my speech so I can serve others, right? That's all I was thinking about. And so I kept improving my speech. It started getting better and better, and I started impacting more and more people. And lo and behold, I found that I wasn't even stuttering or wasn't really getting stuck. Now again, when I say wasn't really getting stuck, I mean no more than any other person and probably less than the average person, okay? Because I was improving my craft of being able to speak well, because I was equipping myself to be able to. So I wanted to be able to speak extremely well and have great influence on people, positive, right, influence, so that when I spoke, people would listen, they would be positively influenced, they would want to hear, they would want to speak with me. And a lot of times I'm listening to people. So a great communicator is someone that listens probably more than they speak. But you also need to be able to communicate well. So when I focused on this why, well, how can I impact the lives of others? And I started thinking about that. Then what that did is it gave me additional reasons to continue to work on my speech, because I knew that I would never be totally satisfied and fulfilled if I did not transform my speech. And one of the big reasons, probably one of the number one reasons that I worked on my speech, was because I know I felt called to help to transform the lives of others. So I want to just challenge you to think about that. No matter how old you are, no matter how young you are, you're here for a reason. And a big part of that reason is to be transformative in the lives of others, to help other people make their lives better so that they can go on and make other people's lives better, and so on and so on. And whatever you do, right? So this is huge, and this is also very important. So you want to think of these two things, so these two categories of why you want to improve your speech. I'm just going to go on to another page here so it's not so far down. But let's talk about the second D here, the second D in this three-part. So the second D, the first one was to do what? Decide why. We talked about two categories. Decide why in terms of myself, how is this going to impact my life? Decide why in terms of how can I serve others better. The next one is to decide how. Decide how. All right, so let me give you something here. When you're talking about how, there's two things that you want to be aware of. Number one is you need to choose a systematic approach. You've heard me say this before, more than likely. You need to choose a systematic approach. Why? And we'll get to this in just a moment a little deeper, but when you're talking about transforming your speech, for most people, not for everyone, but for most people, you're also transforming your mindset, right? So we're dealing with both the psychological and the physiological, how we physically speak, transforming the way, transforming the way that we think and feel and so forth. And so you need something that's systematic. So you need something that's systematic and something that has a daily routine, right? Something that has a daily routine, and something that is scientifically based. So we'll talk about each one of these, right? Because they all relate. A systematic approach, something that you can do every single day that systematically transforms your speech, that systematically changes how you speak, changes how you think. Because if you're doing a little of this here and a little bit of that there, and you're doing it sometimes, and then you do a little bit, and then do something, and then you do more of it here, then what happens is that's not very systematic. And the reason that needs to be systematic and you need to have a daily practice or daily routine is because of this. Now listen, you have a current way of thinking and speaking that is dominant. It's dominant. And in order for you to create a new way of speaking and thinking, you have to create this new pattern, right, of thinking and speaking that becomes more dominant than your what? Than your current way. There's no other way. There's no other way, right? Whatever it is that you're practicing, it doesn't matter if it's my program or some other program, whatever it is that you're doing that's going to help you speak smoother, it's got to become more dominant than your current way, or else what will happen? You'll continue to speak and be the same way you are now, right? So you've got to do something that becomes more dominant. And I was explaining this to one of my clients, wonderful, wonderful client. I was explaining this to her just the other day, and I've explained this before, but I'm not sure if I've ever actually put this on video. So I told her that I was going to create a video and talk about this. So you want to think of this dominance factor in this way. So imagine that you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, right? So this is your current dominant relationship. You have this boyfriend or girlfriend, and you see this person, you talk to this person, you have a relationship with this person. Let's say something happens, something goes wrong, and you need to break up with this person because this person, even though you're comfortable with them, you know them, right? You're familiar with them, you know them, and you're comfortable, but the situation has gotten to a place, the relationship has gotten to a place where it's unhealthy for you, right? It's not helping you get to where you want to go in life. Does that make sense? So now it's time for you to separate from this relationship. Okay, so that's clear, you want to separate. Well, let's say that eventually you find or you enter into a new relationship, one that's healthier, one that's going to get you to where you need to go. So the new relationship isn't going to work out if you do what? If you continue to maintain the relationship with the old person, right? So you have to cut off the old person completely. No more phone calls, no more seeing the person, no more text messages, no more Facebooking, no more Instagramming, no more WhatsApping, right? You have to cut the person off completely because this person, the relationship you have with this person is dominant, right? You're familiar with it. It's more comfortable, even though it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable comfortability, right? Where you're in something that's uncomfortable, but it's comfortable for you, right? It's more comfortable than something new. So you just stay in the painful situation. So you've got to break that and strengthen your relationship with the new person. Cut the old person off and begin to strengthen and maintain and develop a tighter relationship with the new person, with the calls and the WhatsApping and the texts and whatever else you might be using when you watch this video, right? And spending time together with this person, right? It's the same thing. It's the same thing when we talk about deciding how you're going to do this. You have to develop a relationship with your new way of thinking and your new way of speaking, and you have to cut off the relationship with your old, more dominant way of thinking and speaking. And so therefore, whenever you speak, you simply cannot allow yourself to speak the same way. You simply cannot allow yourself to have the same thoughts. So you have to continue to substitute your old way of thinking. Every time you think it, you substitute it with the new thought. Every time you speak this way, you have to stop yourself and say, no, I'm not going to speak, I'm going to correct myself and speak this way, right? So first you have to learn what this way is, right? You learn what this way is. That's where the systematic approach comes in. It says, how do I want to speak? Well, I want to speak smoother. I want to speak more fluently, more fluidly. I want to be clear. I want to be confident. I want to be calmer when I speak. I want to, right? And so, all right, what does that look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? Okay, now I need to practice this systematically to make this more dominant. This is my more dominant way of speaking and of thinking. I don't want to be anticipating and worrying and say, oh, I know I'm going to get stuck on this word, right? So we want to change that. So we have to establish a relationship with the new person by cutting off the old. We have to cut off the old. Does that make sense? So one of the ways you do that is to have a systematic approach and to have a daily routine which enforces and reinforces the systematic approach. And I'm going to add to this daily routine must include immersion. And some of you have heard me talk about this before. Immersion means, imagine you're standing on the edge of a pool or even a beach, and you walk in the beach or the pool, and you can walk in, you can slowly immerse yourself, right? It comes up to your ankles, then your knees, then your hips, and then your shoulders and your arms, and then finally you're underwater. So you immerse yourself slowly. And certainly you can do that. But remember, you have a dominant way of thinking and speaking, And so if you don't make this new way more dominant very quickly, then you'll be walking into that pool, wading into that water forever. I mean, it'll just take you a very, very long time, because this new way is trying to compete with the old way, but you're still calling the old way. You're still talking to the old way. Does this make sense? So you got to cut it off if you want to get there quickly. So instead of wading in slowly, you jump into the pool. You jump into the pool. Maybe you have some floaties or something on so that you can learn how to swim, but you got to jump in. You have to immerse yourself, which is the way to make this new way more dominant than the old way. Okay? So dominance is a key here, scientifically based. So the Pro 90D speech system is scientifically based. I can't say this for other systems, maybe some of them are, but I can say it for our system. It's scientifically based. It's based primarily in 4 areas of knowledge, 4 bodies of knowledge and study. Neuroscience, neuroplasticity, right? So you can look that up. The second one is observational learning. Observational learning is how we learned our first language, is how we learned how to do lots of things. It's a very natural way, a very efficient, effective way to learn things. Observational learning, right? The third thing is habit formation, how you and I form new habits, new patterns. And then the last one is learning, right? Well, not just learning, but the last one has to do with skill development, how we develop and learn new skills, because speaking well is also a skill. It's something that you can sharpen, that you can do better. So yes, it's learning, but it's specifically skill development. How can I sharpen this and build this up until I become an expert in it, until I become a genius at it, until I become extremely good at communicating? So it's skill development. So we're talking about skill development, we're talking about habit formation, we're talking about observational learning, and we're talking about neuroplasticity and neuroscience. So the Pro 90D speech system is firmly based in these areas. Pro 90D speech system is firmly based in these 4 areas of science. You can look it up, you can research, and you're going to find that the Pro 90D speech system is squarely seated on the foundation of at least those 4 scientific bodies of knowledge. Everything that we do in the system is drawn from those bodies of knowledge. Now, why is it important that you have a scientifically based, systematic approach? Confidence. One of my clients, Dr. Ismail, and many of my clients who actually happen to be doctors, scientists, say that one of the reasons that they chose this program is because of the scientific foundation. They're familiar with the science, right? So they chose it because it gave them confidence that it would actually work. There's nothing any worse than you doing something and investing money, investing hundreds or thousands of dollars, and investing hundreds of hours into something, and you're not sure if it's going to work. Now, I know you can go out and you'll see devices that you put in your ear, and you'll see all of these different programs with licensed therapists and licensed people, and they have these studies that have been done, and so you go, bam, it's scientifically based, it's systematic, it's got to work. Not necessarily, unfortunately. I've had many clients, a lot of my clients have tried the ear thing. I won't mention it by name. A lot of them have tried it, and it hasn't worked long term for them. Not saying it doesn't work or it won't work long term, it hasn't worked for them. A lot of them have gone to different kinds of therapists and experts, and it just hasn't worked for them. And a part of that could be for a lot of different reasons, but it just hasn't worked for them. And so one of the things that you want to look at is you want to look at the science upon which the program that you're getting ready to enter into is based, and does it make sense? Is it going to get you to where you want to go? So Pro 90D is for professionals and professionally minded people who are mature, and you want to take your speech to the next level. That is, you don't just want to not stutter, you want to become an excellent communicator. You want to become an amazing speaker. So if all you want is to not stutter, then I would say look somewhere else, because this program is going to require more of you. And so this is for those of you that you expect, you demand more from yourself, you know that you're capable of more, and you want your speech to be your greatest asset, not just something that's okay. Remember, I always say, you don't get any extra points for not stuttering. You do get extra points for being an excellent speaker, right? So, scientifically based gives you the confidence to know you're investing your time and money into something that's going to work eventually. It may not work as quickly as you would like, or it may work faster than you expected. It may require more work than you like, or it may not require as much work as you expected. Most of the time, it is going to require more work than you expect. But you know that eventually it's going to work, okay? So this is very important. Let's take a look at this third D. And the third D is to decide, and actually, before we get to this, I just want to do a little review. So the first one is we talked about deciding why we want to do it. We looked at motivations, we looked at reasons, right? And we talked about this possibly being one of the most important ones, service, right? And we said that it's very important that you actually sit down and you think about this, because you might run out of steam, you might run out of motivation if you haven't literally written down and clearly thought about the reasons why you're going on this journey to smooth speech. Then we talked about deciding how. Okay, how are you actually going to get there? And we said that you need to have a systematic approach, a daily routine, a scientifically based system that you're working towards. Now, this last one is where you decide when and how you're going to engage whatever it is that you have been working on, right? So you decide, when am I going to get started, right? You decide when. So it's, why do I want to do this? How do I want to do it? And then you decide when. Am I going to do this now? Am I going to do this later, 6 months later? So you want to decide when. Right? And I want to encourage you and challenge you that the when should be now. Because sometimes people continue to push things off, right? They continue to put things off until later. And when we talk about when, we're also going to talk about what are the things that could block you from achieving your goal of speaking smooth. What are the things that could keep you from deciding now? So you decide, when am I going to do it? And I want to challenge you and say that now should be the time, because the time will pass anyway. So I just want you to stop and think. 3 months ago, was your speech the same as it is now? Was it better? Was it worse? Right? Many of you are going to say, well, my speech was about the same, and that now my speech is either the same as it was, or it might even be a little worse. And so ask yourself, if I had started, for example, Pro 90D 3 months ago, would my speech be any better? Would it be any better? So you have to answer that for yourself. I can tell you that all of my clients have gone through the program and done the work. They can all say, wow, okay, they're doing things that they couldn't do or wouldn't have done before. They're speaking smoother. Now, they're still working on their speech. This isn't something that happens overnight, but your speech is dramatically changed. Your life is dramatically changed. You're able to say things you couldn't or wouldn't say. You're answering the phone, you're making phone calls, you're speaking up, you're making presentations, you're doing all the things, and you're still improving your speech. Why? Because speaking well is a skill. So it's not about, I'm still working on not stuttering. No, it's about, I'm still working on speaking smoother and more fluently and clearer and more confidently. I'm still working on that. My speech has gotten better. I was listening to one of my audios from 10 years ago. I was like, oh, wow, listen to that. And listen to how I said that. And now I can see how my speech is better than it was then. So I'm still improving my speech. So you want to decide when, and now should be the time, because time is going to pass anyway. So 3 months from now, where would you like to be? your life could be very, very different 3 months from now than it is now. If you keep kicking the can down the road, 3 months will have gone by, nothing will have changed, or things will be worse. You'll keep missing opportunities. When you think about the money, you're going to spend the money someplace. If you have the money or you can get it, you're going to get it. You're going to spend it on something. It could be clothes, it could be a vacation, it could be some other program. You spend it. Had plenty of people go out and spend thousands of dollars on other devices and programs. Didn't work because it didn't have all those components. Came back. Now they don't have any money for this program, or now they're just really, really fearful about investing that kind of money because they did it once before, because they were just looking for something that's easier or faster or something like that, 3 days or 3-day weekend or something like that. So when is now? Now, let's talk about what might prevent you or block you from deciding what to do now. So a couple of things. One is doubt. So we're talking about blockers now. Blockers. One is doubt, and the other is fear and avoidance. Okay, and let's just talk about those two things, and then we'll wrap it up here. So these are things that will block you from deciding to take action now. One is doubt. So people doubt whether or not they'll actually be able to transform their speech. Is it really possible that I could speak like this person, that I could become an excellent speaker when, look at the way that I speak now? Is it really possible? So they're doubting. That's where the science comes in. And that's where you look around and you see, is there anyone else in the world at any other time who stammered, stuttered, spoke too fast, or had a fear of public speaking and transformed their speech? Is there anyone else? Okay, well, maybe it's just one person. That person's maybe elite. They're exceptional. So are there 2 people? Are there 5 people? Are there 10 people? Well, I can tell you there's millions of people, and at least hundreds of thousands of people, but probably millions of people who've transformed their speech. I've helped hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, myself. I'm just one person who's here doing this little span of time in the overall time span of the world, right? And I've helped hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people, just myself. So look at all the other people that have helped other people learn to speak well. So you're talking about millions of people who've done it. So if they can do it, you can do it too. All right? So the doubt, you can squash that by looking around and seeing, is there anyone else who's improved their speech? That's why I have the videos up, and you can trust those videos that they're for real. Right? And you can try it yourself. You can try some of the program yourself. I have lots of videos out there where you can try some of the things. Just remember, you're not getting the whole program. If you watch a video and you try airflow linking or extending, that's just one small part. So don't say, oh, well, I tried it and it worked a little bit. Well, you didn't do the whole program, right? But just remember, you can try it yourself and you say, okay, this just makes sense and this works. Look at the science, and you can look at other people around inside my program and outside and say, okay, they've done it, so then I can probably do it as well. Now, the second one is big. It's fear and avoidance. So some people simply avoid making a decision to work on their speech out of fear that they might fail. What if I try it and it doesn't work? What if I spend this money? What if I invest this time and it doesn't work? What if I do everything I can and it still doesn't work? I've never had someone come in, invest the money, and stick with it and not see dramatic results. I've had people come in, invest the money, and quit. They quit. I've had people come in and not do the work, and they still got great results, but not the results I wanted for them because they didn't do the work. Why? Because in many ways, we're all lazy, right? So this is another reason, another blocker, another potential blocker is just laziness, right? So I'm just going to write that one down too, right? We can all be lazy when it comes to certain things. We might not be lazy people, but we can all be lazy when it comes to certain things. And so some people, they just don't want to invest the time and the work into transforming their speech, so they don't get the results. And it's just like any other skill. If you want to learn to play the piano, if you want to learn a sport, I had professional athlete. You can see his video, just went through my program, spoke English a very small percentage of the time. He knows the value of hard work, so he invested the time in the program and he got the results. Dr. Ismail invested the time. Patrick invested the time. Lots of people that I've had over the years invested the time, got the results, now they're off. There are other people who don't invest time, or they invest a little bit of time, so they just don't get the same results as other people. This is in any program, right? So nobody, I'm not going to sit and lie to you and say, oh, 100%, well, we have a 100% success rate. Everyone that comes through the program, they're 100%, they're great. No, that's just not true. Anyone that tells you that, they're lying to you, right? But I can tell you that your best chance for becoming an excellent speaker is using the Pro 980 speech system. Of course you say, well, Michael, of course you'd say that. Well, I'm saying it because the science is there. The science backs it up. And I've watched people transform their speech. I mean, it amazes me sometimes, like, wow, this person's really severe. And then I watch them transform their speech, and I love working with them. I'm like, oh my God, this is just, I just love doing that because you're watching them to be able to have a conversation with you, and you're like, oh, it almost makes you want to cry, like literally. So fear and avoidance. And some people avoid making the decision in the first place. Other people avoid the speaking experiences and situations that they need to improve their speech. So they get into the program, whatever program you want. Hopefully it's this one, but you get into the program and you, oh, no, I don't want to raise my hand. I don't want to make phone calls. I don't want to talk to this person because I'm afraid that I'm going to get stuck. Well, those are the very experiences that you must put yourself in so that you can use the tools, you can learn to use the tools that you're acquiring. Your brain has to develop the recognition, the pattern recognition. Oh, I'm in this situation where I usually get stuck, but now we're doing something different, and now we're being more successful at it. Okay, so now we can do this, right? But if you avoid those situations, then your brain never learns, so whenever you get back in them, it doesn't matter how much work you've done by yourself. You can listen to the audios, you can watch the videos, you can practice by yourself, right? You can practice with your friends, but when you get out in those other situations that generally triggers stuttering or stammering or getting stuck or whatever it is, nervousness, anxiousness, triggers that, then your brain says, oh, boom, this is how we're supposed to speak in this situation, so here we go, right? So you have to literally put yourself in those situations, desensitize yourself, desensitize yourself so that you can learn to perform well under pressure. And you stop seeing situations like going through the drive-thru, answering the phone, introducing yourself as high-pressure situations in the first place. So you learn to depressurize those situations, and you learn to handle the ones that truly might be a little higher pressure. And that's really, it's the way that we respond and react. There's really no high pressure, but we respond and react, except for somebody shooting at you, right? But even then, you can respond and react. Look at all of your highly skilled military soldiers. They learn to react under pressure. They train themselves by putting themselves under pressure. So you don't want to avoid situations that will help you, that's really your practice, your real life practice. You don't want to avoid them. You don't want to fear making the decision to move forward with your speech, because otherwise your default future will be what it is now or worse. I can guarantee you. If you don't do anything, your future will be what it is now, or it'll be worse. And maybe it's okay now, but maybe you know that you have dreams, things that you really want to do. You know that you're capable of doing more. You know that you want a better future than you have now. And you know that you want to have better relationships. You want to just feel freer. Then you've got to make a decision. And I say make that decision now, because if you keep kicking the can down the road, you may never make it. And then finally, sometimes we're just lazy. We just don't want to do the work. So when you go back and you look at your motives, your reasons why, and you say, man, you know, I want to get there as quickly as I can. I want to be able to serve people. I want to feel better about myself. I want to feel freer. And I can get there quicker if I immerse myself, if I have a systematic approach, I immerse myself in daily routines, a scientifically based system, then that will motivate you to do the work that you need to do. Okay? So I want to thank you so much for checking out this video. And I want to encourage you, those of you who are intelligent, professionals or professionally minded, and you're at a place in life where you're ready to make that transition, you're ready to make that transformation, and you need support, and you want to accelerate your progress. Remember, you can do this on your own, but it generally takes people a lot longer because people get discouraged and they don't have the support to keep them on track, or they get distracted, right? And so I want to encourage you to get in touch with me, and let's work together one-on-one. And let's accelerate your progress, accelerate your journey, and get you to the place where your speech is liberated, so you feel free to say whatever you want to say, where you feel free to fulfill your dreams, to do the things. People stopped dreaming. Well, now you can start to dream again, because now your speech is going to support those dreams. Your speech is going to be an asset. So click the little circle somewhere on this screen. Generally, when you're looking at the screen, it's in the upper right-hand corner. You click it, boom, it'll slide out. You click on the link, it'll take you to this page. Make sure that you read it, make sure that you understand what's expected of you. Let's get in touch. Let's get started, so that 3 months from now, nobody's speech is going to be perfect. Again, mine is. But 3 months from now, you're going to be saying things and doing things that you are struggling to do right now. Okay? Once again, my name is Michael Williams. Thank you so much. Looking forward to hearing from you. Don't wait. Don't wait. Now is the time. I want to talk to you. Okay? I want to work with you if you're ready, and if you're an intelligent professional or professionally minded. We'll talk with you soon.